Hello, the topic is hating philosophy, I guess. Now, I don't think I hated philosophy when I was young, but I did think it was kind of pointless. And when I went to school, my mom was like, study anything but philosophy. I had a weird goal. I figured that I'd be a writer. I was already working as a programmer from 14 on, so I felt, well, I make a living doing that. I just went to school. What's the best knowledge? So I took a lot of science and math, and I also took some logic, which is offered in the philosophy department. Now, my impression at the time was that philosophy hadn't really taken science into account. It had its own weird, esoteric way that was really almost religious compared to what seemed to go on in science, right, on the one hand. And then science should be producing philosophy. It's like, hey, there's philosophical implications to the law of the conservation of energy and so on. What's up with that? Okay, but then during my career, well, I studied some people that do know something about philosophy of science. I found out the logicians are all philosophers. And I realized that all the stupid philosophy, it's people's faults. It's not the subject matter. It's not even the way philosophers have done it. Philosophers have generated logic while doing all that arguing. So they didn't get to a conclusion on free will, but by arguing about free will for 2,000 years, they created this tool set of logical argumentation, which still can't grasp all of the questions we've come up with. But back in the real world, where 90% of the things occur, developing that kind of logic has enabled science and all kinds of things to be answered that weren't even a part of the original question. And that's how I feel about moralities and other things too, but not everything, but like morality. It's like, well, people have done them wrong. Does it mean all people that are interested in morality are just moralizers, want to control other people? Not necessarily, not if you find some definition of morality where you're supposed to tell yourself what to do with your morality, not others. And if somebody else does something so egregious that you have to consider making an exception to something you'd like to be a universal rule, like thou shalt not kill, that's a moral question again for you. You're not to argue, you're not trying to convince them they deserve to be beat down, after harming you and yours. You have to convince yourself that it's going to happen. And if it's moral or not, or whether you just bygones be bygones, turn the other cheek, whatever your moral system's going to say. So, so that's the situation. It's when people trash it. I find myself going along a lot of the way, and then I see it's like, okay, so you're going to say, it's like most human behavior, not that pretty of a sight in our society. I certainly don't want the world just to go on this way. Does that mean there's nothing worth promoting? Now, an exception to this is dogmas. I think most people, what happens is they don't like the dogmas out there, set of rules, set of conclusions to guide them. And they're searching for the one good one. Like I'm saying, hey, philosophy can be done well. Well, dogma can be done well. That I don't believe. There is no dogmatic rule set like that. There are guidelines for someone's self, but they're not dogmatic. Right? Not properly. We don't know enough to be dogmatic. We're in the middle of history, always in the middle of the universe, of space and time. In the middle. There is a future, there is a past. Things are not done. They are not complete. Right? And dogmatic systems just don't take that into account. So none of them are worthwhile. There is no search for the perfect dogma. There's search for useful cognitive tools, logical systems, approaches to things, be it baking, gardening, nuclear physics, what have you. And you don't need dogmatic ones. None of them need to be dogmatic. And if we did that, philosophy itself might actually be more than 50% crap. Or might not be, I mean. Of course, it might still be. Who knows? I mean, but it would be a lot more redeemable. It's like logic. When you go into the area of philosophy where it really is literally logicians, is basically they're doing math and philosophy math. A lot of those people, but and if you they're doing stuff non-dogmatically, and it's all interesting. It could be a little esoteric, it might be a dead end. It's all of this, research kind of features, but it all gains an interesting quality when people are reflecting on interesting things honestly. And dogmas are inherently dishonest. They have to lie from day one, the day that they're formed. And they pretend not to change, and they change, and it's just ridiculous after a few thousand years. All right, cheers.